Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our first speaker for today. He's the Central Regional Correspondent for Joint News and the second elected president in the history of UCC. He instituted the You and the Law program on ACL FM. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming home Richard Kojo Nyao.
Good morning. It's great to be back home. I left here, I think about 4 years ago. Yeah. So today we've come to have an engagement with ourselves, to share knowledge, to share ideas, and all of that. I have been in this media practice for the past 15 years, and based in the central region. I started when I was a student here at the University of Cape Coast, my undergrad days. So I was a custodian, and then when I came to read law, I was a custodian as well. So custody is in my blood. But I work at Radio Balco, and when I talk about Radio Balco, I cannot mention Radio Balco without mentioning my senior Kojo Yankson, because they are the pioneers of Radio Balco as far as campus broadcasting is concerned. So they blazed a trail for us to follow. So we became student presenters, and then we worked our ways out, and then we decided that we would stay in the journalism profession. It's an interesting profession. It has its twists and turns. Sometimes it's exciting, other times too, when the attacks start coming, then you know what it is. So in my line of practice, I have a few food for thoughts that I want us to engage in, because my seniors are here. They are my seniors both in law and then in journalism as well. So I would open the gate for them by presenting to you a few things. But before I do that, I have a few questions. Do you think that the 1992 Constitution envisaged social media? Do we think so? Did it envisage social media, or the framers of the Constitution thought about only the traditional media, the print, and then the electronic media? Because if you look at the 1992 Constitution and then the current happenings here on social media, you would ask whether if someone defames someone on social media, how will the person get justice? And I'm going to run by you a few of the cases that have gone on as far as the social media defamation suits is concerned, and then what also transpires when the traditional media also goes beyond what they are supposed to do as far as our freedoms and our rights are concerned. So I asked this question: did the 1992 Constitution anticipate social media? And then we look at social media, the actors that are there, and we would have our focus on two of the actors that are very vociferous on social media. We would mention Kevin Taylor, and then we will also mention Trini Jonas as well, Glass and Kwan. We also mention them as well. So in common with many aspects of modern life, the internet has transformed the way in which we communicate with one another, where the print press and the broadcast media were one of the main sources of information. So the internet has made it possible for any person to publish ideas, information, opinions to the entire world. And this is according to Bill Gates. In particular, blogging and social media now rival newspaper, television, radio as dominant sources of news and information. Unsurprisingly, these developments have also called into question the very definition of journalism and the media in the digital age. So I ask, who is a journalist? Are all the people, the actors on social media, or journalists? Would we classify them as such? Because now you can just simply pick your phone, you can have a video, you write a few paragraphs, and then you put it out there. And then people feed onto it. So you ask whether there are barriers or there are some distinguishing features between the journalists that are on social media and the ones that are operating under the traditional media as well. So this has raised difficult questions of how the activities of bloggers and citizen journalists can be reconciled to existing models of media regulation. Social media is now part of our daily lives. There is not a single day we abstain from our phones. When even we miss the news from the traditional media, we are cocksure that we could go to the internet, Facebook, YouTube, and we could still get them there because there are podcasts. The videos are also uploaded on their various YouTube channels, and then they could follow. We also have what is called the digital mourning, where sometimes when someone even dies and we don't even know that person, we seem to even be mourning more than even the person that are even closer. So when a celebrity dies or someone who is even in a faraway place even dies, how we even act, how we even carry ourselves, I mean, it's as if that the people are just our next door neighbors. So all of these actors on social media and in the traditional media are posing a challenge. But in the case of the traditional media, the Constitution envisaged that. So if you look at Chapter 12 of our Constitution, it takes care of that, and then it has stipulated a lot of the things under the Article 162 and the rest. All of these things are there. So when there is a defamatory comment that is made on radio, on TV, and the others, the NMC is there. So sometimes the NMC acts as the mediator. They go there first, and then they seek to talk about it. If they are unsuccessful, they go to court, and then they carry on with the suit. But is it the same for the actors on social media? When someone defames someone on social media, will the person also qualify to head to the NMC to also get the same treatment that the traditional media also gets? It's becoming increasingly difficult to even get these actors when they even make pronouncements, when they defame people on social media. Very difficult to get them because they seem to be addressless, they seem to be faceless, they seem to be on a prowl. I mean, we don't know where they are. So we look at the Asankuma case, where Asankuma, a lawyer, sued Kevin Taylor over a video which was circulated on his Facebook wall and on YouTube. According to him, a Dubai-based company named Horizon Royal Diamond Company, upon being defrauded by certain individuals, retained Mr. Ankuma as their lawyer to help them track and arrest the fraudsters. According to Taylor, Mr. Ankuma, despite having all the necessary information for the arrest of the said fraudsters, in connection with Iyoko and some government officials, dragged his feet and failed to act, and therefore the officials of the Horizon Company left Ghana. They later entered into an agreement with Nana Mensah, the CEO of Men's. And Mr. Nkuma's fault, because they say that it was Mr. Nkuma's fault because he colluded with Mr. Keke Amwa, his uncle, and government officials to let those fraudsters escape from justice, but lied about it and made Nana Mensah take blame for a crime he did not commit. He referred to Mr. Ankuma as a liar, a fraudster, a criminal, a dimwit, and all of that, all of these, all some unprintable words. And I'm sure that it is not only Mr. Ankuma that has gotten his share of Mr. Taylor's rants and then his vituperations, but a lot of the people have had their fair share of that. So the prominent issue to be looked at was whether the courts had jurisdiction to deal with this case, since the defamatory statement was made in the United States of America. Now, if you look at the elements of the defamatory suits, the publication made by Kevin Taylor constitutes libel. And libel, we all know, is an attack in a permanent form. It is either written or printed and contained in books, newspapers, videos, pictures as well. In another case, Yusufu versus MGM picture, the film made the defendant imputed the plaintiff was raped. It was held that the permanent nature of the film made the defendant liable in libel. In the case of this Asankuma and then the Kwabena Botela, the defamatory words were written all over the internet. First, it is clear that the statement Mr. Taylor made constituted defamation, as it had the effect of reducing him in the eyes of right-thinking members of society, as we know as far as defamation is concerned. In the instant case, the words of the defendant suggested that the plaintiff, Mr. Akuma, had committed treason and was unethical in his profession. So it goes on and on. However, although the use of the internet as a medium of application of the defamatory suit aided the counsel of Mr. Akuma, it did raise an issue of jurisdiction for Lord Justice Kweku T. Akabuafo. So when we talk about the jurisdiction, we know that Mr. Taylor is not currently in this country. He is based in the US. He made the statement in the US. But the courts construed that the effects of his statement was in Ghana. So the statement that he made, even though he was in the US, but the appropriate forum was in Ghana because the consumers of his message were in Ghana. And so the courts agreed with the counsel for Mr. Asankuma. And then it went on, and then there was judgment. Let's look at the judgment of the Supreme Court. Relying on the earlier cited principle of law, took the position that the cause of defamation occurred in Ghana, even though the defendants are based in the United States of America, for the following reasons, and thus laid the test as follows. Firstly, where did the defendants intend the video to be watched and shared? Secondly, is the defendant aware or ought to have been aware that the claimant has established a significant reputation in the relevant jurisdiction capable of being tarnished by his or her defamatory statements? And third, did the defendant know or ought to have known that the public video would be of considerable interest to people of relevant jurisdiction who have Facebook accounts or merely have access to the internet? The court, having satisfied itself with these questions, took the view that it would rather be unfair to deny Mr. Akuma the opportunity to vindicate his reputation in a jurisdiction here in Ghana, which is a center of interest and very important to him as a lawyer. But after the court's judgment, Mr. Taylor responded and said that the fight between social media commentator Taylor and all of that, he said that it was sued on the wrong address, and then he doesn't even care, and he even responded further, making more defamatory statements. But where did it end? After more than a year of securing judgments, Mr. Asankuma has not gotten the needed justice because, according to Potila, he is nowhere to be served and all of that. But let's look at it this way. If it were to be multimedia, TV3, or any other media house in Ghana, the media house would have been served, and then judgment or the service or justice would have been served. But in this case, Mr. Potela keeps defaming people, hop from one place to the other, one personality to the other, and then defame them, say all manner of unsolicited things about them. But where do these people get justice? That is the question that I want us to, and I'm sure that when lawyer Samsala comes, he would maybe have a bite at this. Where do these people get justice? The people that have been defamed, yes, they've gone to the court. The court has agreed with them that yes, we have the jurisdiction to try this matter. Judgment has been secured in your favor. Where do you obtain justice after judgment has gone in your favor? So, looking at these two scenarios, the traditional media that is there, it is registered, it goes, and there is an NMC, the National Media Commission, where they act as some kind of a policeman that would ensure that you even publish a rejoinder and all of that. But you cannot tell a retailer to publish a rejoinder. You can tell him, but he might not even publish. He might even give you more. So it becomes very difficult, and then you ask yourself whether the 1992 Constitution did really envisage this, because We can also keep on changing our constitution that, okay, let's amend this constitution, let's do this, because we know in performance as Attorney General, J.S. Soa said that the constitution is a living organism capable of growth and development. So, would we say that it was construed when the framers of the constitution were crafting the constitution that, okay, there will be a time that social media or the constitution could be read to respond to these emerging issues that are making people trample on the rights of other people as well. So it's more or less like a preferential treatment that is being given to social media as against the traditional media, because when someone defames someone on social media, then there is really a problem. So this is the puzzle that this morning we would want to engage in, or want to talk about, or have some brief discussion when the rest of our panelists are introduced and then they come and have their bites. But in the line of duty, I've also come across something that I need to put across, and it is in relation to the law. The other time I engaged Mr. Ayenini on it. There was this FUSAC strike, and then the students at the University of Cape Coast Basic School, they were affected. They were in the classroom. There was no teacher because the teachers themselves were part of the strike, actually. So they were there, but they were being driven away by a task force that was put in place by the FUSAC group. Then the media, they take the media along, and then they interview the students because the students were there. They were brought to school to come and learn, but they were there. And then after the interview, one girl said that, hey, the teachers are out of the classroom and we are here fully, no one is attending to us and all of that. And then after the interview, and then we played. Then I started thinking about it. But was I right in interviewing the child who was in the classroom, even though the teachers are supposed to be in the classroom, but the teachers are part of the group that are driving everyone away? What I did, was it in the interest of the child? Could I be sued by a parent who feels aggrieved that, well, the child is not of age, you interview the child? Why did you interview the child? And then the following day, I got a call from a former UCC. Said, my daughter has a trouble with you. My daughter has a big issue with you. Then I said, why? They said, my daughter said that they were waiting for you in their classroom to come and interview them. You didn't come and interview them. So here I was. I've done an interview. I'm thinking and brooding over it, and I'm even thinking about the possible repercussion. And then another parent who is well educated, I mean a former policy of the school, meets me and then says, my daughter is angry with you because he was expecting Agogonyo to come and to their class. They were expecting you didn't come, and then you interview these people alone. So I sat down and I was thinking about it. So don't you remember I engaged you on that? But I said, okay, once issues are not arising out of it, I will take it like that and I will shout, because no one has raised any issue about it. But it is a puzzle because someone, I also bound this thing off, said that, well, elsewhere, the parent could have sued you, say that, well, my daughter said A, B, C, D, and they were in the classroom, and then when they are taken to school, the teachers act in the stead of parents, so they are like the parents of the children. So all of these things have brushes with the law. And is it that someone has not tested the law, or what I did was maybe right, because the teachers that are supposed to take care of the children were conspicuously absent, and they were the part of the task force that were driving every teacher that is in the class. They were driving them away. Was the child possibly in danger? So apart from that angle, you ask yourself, because you also want the teachers back in the classroom, because the parents brought the children to the classroom to be taken care of by their teachers. but the children are in danger. They could be playing, someone would get injured. So, as a media person, is it wrong to throw more lights on that issue that is of national interest, so it gets the attention of the authorities to solve whatever challenge or problem there is, or you stay away, you simply stay away? So I have been thinking my head out of this, and I know that today maybe we could get answers out of it, because I'm not a lawyer yet. Something is. And Kojo Jackson has enormous experience in how these things could be treated. I know that we are in Ghana, we are not there yet, but the law is no respecter of whether we are there yet. As soon as someone is able to go to court and then prove that you did some wrong, you could be handled in that particular way. So I will end here and say thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a very warm welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. You know, I actually grew up, where's the road? The main road is here, right? I actually grew up less than 1 kilometer in that direction, in Bungalow 201, New Site, University of Cape Coast. I have a lot of fond memories of my childhood in that bungalow. You know, back then there was only one TV station, GTV. I don't know, is there anyone here who is old enough to remember when Ghana had only one TV station? Boss man, you be like you grew up. Yeah. GTV was the only TV station. I remember we would come back from school, do our homework, go out and play for a while, and we'd come back home at about 6 p.m. and switch on the TV. We would have adult education in Akan or Dagbani or Ga or Ewe or whichever language it was in that day. Then there was something called Showcase, also in one of the various languages of Ghana. Then the news at 7 p.m. On weekends, after the news, if you are lucky, you get some discussion show we call Talking Point, which I think is still on GTV. Yeah. And then after that, Akan Drama. Somewhere around 10 minutes to midnight, they will do something called Reflections. Reflections was like a motivational message. But at the end of the day, before you go to bed, they motivate you before you go to sleep. And then some choir will come and sing Yanarai Assassini. Oh, they were not as good as symphonics. And after that song, GTV would shut down. That's it. They would shut down. From midnight till the next morning, there was no media in Ghana. If anything happened in this country between midnight and the following morning, you would never hear about it. There was no social media. There were no other stations that would be on for you to go and tune in and find out what's happening. You just have to wait till the following day before you hear of it. If you are all the way out here in Cape Coast, then it might take even longer. That's what the media was when I was growing up. One station that told me how to think, that told me what to enjoy, who to believe. That station told me what the news was, and if I didn't hear it from that station, I wouldn't hear it anywhere else. And that station was run by the government. So really, the media for Ghanaians in the 80s was simply whatever the government wanted you to know. That's media. There were a few private newspapers, but I don't even know if they had national circulation. The ones that had national circulation were also owned by the government. It took people like our current president and many others to fight the battles that led to the proliferation of the media, so that today the NCA can announce the shutdown of 49 TV stations for the offense of operating without a license, and still insist that they are champions of press freedom. Anyway, more on that later, maybe. I've been looking forward to this interaction with all of you, mainly for two reasons. The first reason is my father. My father died earlier this year. And he spent his entire life working for the University of Cape Coast. First as an academician, he was a lecturer, a researcher, and then later in his career as an administrator. So he was a hall warden, he was a dean, he was a head of department, and eventually he was a pro-vice chancellor of UCC. Professor Jansen was instrumental in the creation of first the medical school and then the School of Law here on UCC campus. He often suggested that I should become a lawyer, but as my lawyer friends know, if you people ever allow me into a law lecture, that lecture will never end, because I will never stop arguing. But it would have given my father quite a thrill to see me here with you today. The second reason why I've been looking forward to this is that a major constituency of future Ghana is in this room. You are the advocates of the future. 10 years from now, some of you in this room will try cases that will shape our society and redefine our laws. To have this opportunity to engage with you at this stage in your journey, for me, is a great opportunity. And it means that I can maybe sow an idea or two in your mind. So that at some point, when it becomes your job to protect or destroy free speech. Some of these ideas might come up in your considerations. So what's this idea I want to sow in your minds? It's actually quite simple. The idea is that the survival of society may one day come down to you and me. And by you, I mean lawyers. By me, I mean journalists. You see, there's a battle going on in our society. We are just not aware of it all the time. It's only sometimes that battle becomes obvious. That battle is between private interest and public good. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. When you and I are sitting in a car in traffic for 2 hours trying to get from point A to B, then somebody in a V8 with lights on drives around us and through us and amongst us and amidst us and gets home before us. That person is pursuing his private interest over our public good. When you see plans for a new road to be constructed through a community to link us from one place to another, and then they start construction, and then suddenly the road that they are constructing looks a little different from the plan. Now the road doesn't go straight. You want to get somewhere, it goes around like this. And in that space that the road is avoiding, somebody comes to build a church. That is private interest over public good. Almost every problem we are having as a nation can be traced to somebody pursuing his private interest over the public good. And already it has become the role of the media to be the last line of defense between those who will pursue these private interests and harm our public good. Already, the fourth estate has become the only institution where its main actors are not appointed by the president. Its main actors are not all on salary of the government. Where its main actors recognize their boss, and their boss is the audience. And so whatever they do, you can trust that the first interest they want to serve is the interest of their audience. This is now the only estate of government that we can rely on for this. When somebody sees a fire, before they call the fire service, they call their local radio station. When somebody sees an accident, before they call the ambulance, they call their local radio station. They are doing this because they feel that even though the systems are failing, the media can fill in the gap. I don't know if it is fair for them to think so, because it puts a huge burden on the fourth estate. But that is what they think. That is how Ghanaian society already thinks. Will it get better or worse? I don't know. But at some point, these people who the public considers to be their only chance of getting things done will need protection. And that's where you come in. So they say the media is the eyes and ears of the people. If that's the case, then the legal fraternity is the crash helmet that we must rely on to protect the eyes and ears of the people. Some of you will ask, but do the eyes and ears really need protecting? Who is persecuting the media? Is the media in danger? Ask Anas. Ask Ahmed Swali. Ask the two Ghana web journalists who were going about their day and were suddenly picked up by national security, locked away for days, according to them, tortured. And to this day, nobody has been held to account for it. Ask Caleb Kuda. Yeah, we need you. We need you to protect us so that we can continue to shine a light on the truth. The media is not perfect. For every Anas, there is a Kevin Taylor. The media is not perfect. We don't always do the best job of protecting ourselves. When Caleb Kuda was seen taking pictures of state property on state property, he was caught and beaten for it, and his own employer said, "We didn't send it." So the media is not perfect. No institution is. But the thing is that the public are depending so much on us. So much on us. That perfection or imperfection, we must rise to a higher standard than whatever we have been operating on so far. But that rise will not happen if we don't have protection. That rise will not happen if, as we fight for the people, somebody doesn't fight for us. And that's really unique. They call us the fourth estate. Does anybody know where that expression fourth estate came from? We all know what it means, right? That there are three recognized estates or three recognized arms of government. We have the executive, we have the legislature, we have the judiciary, and the media is supposed to be the fourth one. That will check what the other three do. It's a poetic image. It is not actually codified in our law. But that is the expectation that people have of us anyway. And we try to live up to it. But that expression, the fourth estate, it was actually first used in 1787 by a man called Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke was an Irish politician in the British House of Commons, the British Parliament. And Edmund Burke, they consider him the founder of modern conservatism. So he is a conservative. He was a conservative politician. He believed in things being the way they are, the status quo. There was a debate on the floor of Parliament about whether or not Parliament should allow the press to freely cover parliamentary proceedings. Guess which side Edmund Burke was on? He definitely didn't want the business of Parliament to be out there. He's a conservative. But he used the expression sarcastically when he was describing the press. That's what these people, they think they are the fourth estate of the realm. Something about that expression caught the imagination of the press, and they publicized it. And little by little it became known as the fourth estate. But that was not the first time that expression had been used. This will interest you. So Edmund Burke said it in 1787. Before Burke, in 1580, some guy called Michel de Montaigne, French politician, back then in the 16th century, Europe was playing around with the idea of European laws, what we now have as the European Union. Back then, they were toying around with the idea, trying to come together and form some laws that would govern all European nations. And this guy, Michel de Montaigne from France, was one of the people helping that process. I want to read to you what Miguel de Montaigne said when he used that expression, the fourth estate. He said, and I quote, "What is more barbarous from the word barbarian, what is more barbarous than to see a nation where justice is lawfully denied him that hath not wherewithal to pay for it, and that this merchandise had so great credit that in a political government there should be set up a fourth estate of lawyers." So long before the media was recognized as the fourth estate, Miguel de Montaigne referred to lawyers as the fourth estate. And by the way, just like Edmund Burke, he was also being sarcastic. He said that lawyers have captured the administration of law. If you have money, you can get justice. If you don't have money, you can't. And they have formed themselves into a fourth estate, without which you cannot access justice. So that term, fourth estate, which we have now embraced so lovingly, was an insult, and it was first used on you before us. So we have that in common, don't we? But if the media have owned it and turned it into something positive, it is now at risk of being turned into something negative unless you step in. I'm going to end with this point. This is the real reason why you and I have to work together. Otherwise, our nation will have no future. So, I think it was Sam Jonah who recently used this expression, culture of silence. He said there's a culture of silence in Ghana. And the president came out and refuted it. He said, no such thing. There's no culture of silence. And he reminded us of what was happening the last time that expression, culture of silence, was used. When if you write something that doesn't go in favor of the government, they'll come and knock on your door in the middle of the night, take you away from your family, and you'll never be seen again. That was back in the days of GTV being the only station. The president reminded us that that's what used to happen the last time we used the words culture of silence. So please, let's not just go and pick it up and start using it again as if that is happening again. Well, I mean, we all have different views on that. Some people think if you say that there is a culture of impunity because someone keeps opening the door and leaving it open, it's accurate. It doesn't mean that you can't use that expression until you bring back the days of Vice President Aliu Mahama, when nobody was attending any event on time, when government officials were wasting the time of members of the public, that he used the expression culture of impunity. So unless those conditions come back, we can't use it again. I don't know. But this is my opinion. I didn't come here to share my opinion with you. I came here to share facts. And the fact is this. Nobody can tell you how you feel. Only you know how you feel. So if I say, Mr. President, I feel like it is harder for me to do my job as a journalist today than it was in the past, how can the government tell me, no, Kojo, you don't feel that way? You are mistaken. I know how you feel. You don't. How can that be possible? Whenever somebody tries to tell you how you feel, that person is seeking to manipulate you. They call it gaslighting. It happens a lot in relationships. When a man doesn't want, it's usually the men who do it. A man doesn't want his woman to realize the bad things he's doing. So when she comes up with any evidence, hey, I saw this letter that some woman wrote to you. Letter? Me? It wasn't me. In fact, that's not a letter in your hands. I think you are losing your mind. I think maybe you should speak to your doctor. That's not a letter. Are you sure? What did I say in the letter? Can you remember what you read? Oh, no, I'm sorry. You are wrong. Gaslighting is manipulation. When somebody tries to tell you how you feel, be very careful of that person. What we ought to do for people we care about is to listen to how they feel and see what we can do to help. If you care about someone, that's what you do. If you try to tell them how to feel, you want to manipulate them. So ask yourself, are we living in a nation where the state wants to manipulate the media? I'll leave you to decide if that's what's happening. But if you come to the realization that that is indeed the world we are in, where we are being told to doubt the evidence of our eyes and ears. So a media house is covering a live demonstration, live protest. Right there in the camera, you see soldiers getting out of a vehicle and firing at the crowd. You see it. You are not being told, though. It's not like you are listening to radio and the commentators are telling you that this is what's happening. You are seeing it for yourself. Then they come and tell you, no, that's not what happened. In fact, the guy who was covering it, he caused it. Beware of those who ask you to doubt the evidence of your own eyes and ears. And like I said, the media is your eyes and ears. And we are living in a world where that media needs protection. It needs you to be its crash helmet, to protect those eyes and ears for the public, so that we can continue to tell them the truth. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in a world where the truth is only what the state tells you it is. And if the state decides to stop telling the truth at 12 midnight, you have no access to it until they bring back some more the following day. We are at risk of being moved backwards if the media, the fourth estate, does not get the protection it needs from you, the original fourth estate. Thank you.
Wow. When a person tells you how to feel, it is manipulating. Thank you so much for the wise words. Please let me. Amazing introduce King Promise. I am here to introduce our ticket to Grammys. Our second performance is by Sharon Darling. Sharon.
Good morning once again, honorable guests, learned colleagues, and all protocols observed. I deem it much honor to introduce our third speaker. Permit me to borrow the words of John the Baptist, as it is in the book of John. I'm taking you to church today. He said, "He who coming after me is preferred before me, whose sandals strap I am not worthy to lose." This honorable man I'm about to introduce has a whole Bachelor of Arts degree in English and Theatre Arts. He has his LLB education in the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He has his Master's in Law, that's specifically in Alternative Dispute and Resolution, and has qualifying certificate in law from Ghana School of Law. He is not only a lawyer but also a well-known journalist. He has worked in Joy FM since its beginning in the year 2013. He has also contributed so much in the law faculty, such as he conducted a case that sought the removal from office of the head of Traj in 2015. He is the head of the firm known as A Partners at Law, with a resounding clap offering and a standing ovation
So, which is which? There are two of them. Okay, I leave this here. All right, so the legal vacation just started. We're in the first week of the legal vacation, and I had hoped that I'll have the opportunity of truly resting and not attending to any activities or even going to the law firm or even going to Joy FM. And here I find myself. And I decided that I'm tired of the wig and the gown and the babe, all the colonial relic that we still saddle ourselves with, that I have to be in the scorching sun here in Africa, wearing suits and adding, a babe, adding a wig and a gown. So I'll find some African wear, and I found this. After listening to Kojo Singh speak, I just wish to myself that you were able to assimilate what he shared in the same way that I consumed it. And Richard also dealt with some very important issues that need our attention. I'm going to try. Please, what's the time? How many minutes am I speaking? It's almost 11 now. So when, say, 11:30? 25 minutes, okay. All right. So I think this platform is a very good one, and you need to continue it. Because it is not only an important advertisement for your new faculty, you are still relatively new. But, and this is a strategic faculty for this part of the country, where many would have been denied the opportunity of legal education, but for this faculty. So please, let's put our hands together once again for the dreamers, those who conceptualized and gave birth to the UCC Law Faculty. So not only is it an advertisement for your relatively new faculty, but also so that the university is not a mere ivory tower. The occasional interaction with practitioners of law and other industry players should go a long way to make you complete and ready to take on the world. The media needs people trained in the law. So let me start today's interaction this way. That the media, in fact, needs you badly. The media needs you, having received training in law, very badly. Richie spoke about an event which led him to call me. Well, I'm now receiving the background properly. At the time, I didn't. And I'll confess that I didn't pay too much attention to him, because I had a certain feeling that he shouldn't allow himself to be constricted too much with his background in the law and just go ahead and do his work. the thing that he got and paused to ask the legal questions to avoid trouble, all other media organizations would have gone ahead and published without thinking. And when I say the media needs you, I mean LLB holders. Almost everything the media does needs legal screening, but media owners can't seem to afford lawyers. Truth, lawyers are expensive to maintain. Or I should say, they're expensive to retain. A diligent LLB holder, and I'm not talking about one who specialized in reading only your head notes. You know yourself. If all you have been doing is to read your head notes rather than brief your cases and brief them thoroughly as required of you, so that the principles enunciated in a particular case will become internalized with you. If you don't get to that point, you can't walk the law. You can't talk the law. You must exude the law, because that is what you are consuming now. And you never have a better time than now. Mark it elsewhere. I can spend the whole day and night in the law chambers reading. But I have responsibilities as a father. I have responsibilities as a husband. This is the time to take in all that you can. Stop reading head notes, shortcut, quick fixes, and running to the exam just for the purpose of answering an exam question and getting out of here without remembering the authorities you have read. If you stick to head notes, the cases will get out of your head. If you read them in detail and internalize them, they never leave your system. And guess what? The world will know. Not every lawyer will go to courts, but the world will know. It's very easy for a judge to tell that this is a lawyer who didn't brief his cases by reading head notes. Simple question, you are fumbling in the courtroom. You get thrown out and then you start complaining in the public. You don't tell the real story about the fact that you're a disappointment to yourself and to the profession. So, a diligent LLB holder can guide a media house to avoid costly defamation suits while supplying judicial authority and legislation relevant to enrich any subject at all that the media treats. There's nothing new under the sun. Every issue that comes up for media interaction, almost every issue has been dealt with judicially before, or an aspect of it. And there is legislation about that issue. Because our lives are regulated by law. What aspect of your life is not regulated by law? Even religion, there is an attempt to regulate it by law. Even religion. The law has no business with the metaphysics, with spiritual things. That's why you can't take a spiritual matter to the courts, because the judge is not someone trained to divine things. They deal with facts, cold facts, hard facts. But the law is even attempting to regulate religion. In fact, an aspect of it is regulated. You need a land to build a church, to build a mosque. How much noise you make as a church or a mosque, you must be within the allowable decibels of noise that the environmental protection laws permit. Otherwise, you could get your church or your mosque shut down. Yes, there's coronavirus. It's now regulating. Because of coronavirus, there is law regulating how you conduct church. You can't go into a church activity and do more than 2 hours. Forget the fact that the law is being breached. There's supposed to be a register by all churches. Everybody must register in the mosque, must write their names before they enter. Well, that roll call, they started taking it. I think they've stopped. So almost every facet of life is regulated by law and or has been judicially determined by our courts. All the cases you see that come up every day in court, why do we use precedents? We refer to how this case was dealt with. A similar matter was dealt with 2000 and days, 1990 that, 18 something. And we use the same logic. Of course, sometimes because of changing times, with little modifications, like you say, mutatis what? Mutandis. That's a term that even at your level 100 you should be familiar with. So, can you imagine the education and empowerment the public will receive on issues that are treated by the media every day with such guidance from somebody who has been trained in the law? That's how much you are needed. The solutions we seek every day are there in the books. That's how important you are by your training. Without even getting to Makola. Remember, I qualified it by saying diligent. Because I know colleagues who are lazy. They can't even draft the basic things, conveyances. But they have gone through the entire process. We don't have to continue to grope in the dark in search of the solutions that already exist. Sadly, this is partly an African and Ghanaian leadership problem. People assume leadership and they start to do afresh the things that have been started, only for somebody to point to them, it's already been done. And for some corrupt reason, They will not be interested in what already exists. If graduates, or I say if graduates, postgraduates, and even doctoral studies research papers gather dust, and I won't say on the shelves, because I know enough to know that these papers don't sit on shelves in our universities. Some have been packed into some room, dirty. Nobody is interested in even organizing them properly. If this is what we do to research, what can you expect? So it's a Ghanaian leadership problem. We have corrupt mindsets. We look for never enduring quick fixes to everything. So we even build roads, schools, and hospitals that don't survive the next rain. What a shameful conduct, superintended by the political leadership that wants us to address them with all the accolades of whatever achievements. You are useless as a leader if a road is built under your watch and that road doesn't survive the next rain. You spent all the money we have. A school is built, a hospital is built, and the small winds that accompany the rain destroys everything. You build a small school in a village and you give us a budget that MTN Foundation builds the same class of school, even of better quality, superior quality, and gives us a budget which is a quarter of what you have quoted to us. And what that foundation has done, or what one individual or radio station has led to do, survives many seasons of rains and winds. And yours, not even 1 year. That's how useless you are. You shouldn't be proud of yourself at all to call yourself a leader. Why would a PhD, critical to a nation's critical human resource and development, earn in a month what a lawyer who hasn't been anywhere after Makola earn as basic fees for 2 hours service? Nita is complaining. Are you paying attention? PhD holders, doctoral studies is not a small thing. It is tedious. It can be frustrating. It can get people going mad. And they spend all the years. They do a master's, some do an MPhil, they go and do that, they go and do that, and then go and do a PhD. And at the end of the month, a serious country, we are paying them 5,000 Ghana cedis. An amount that a lawyer like me, will talk to you on the phone for 2 hours and earn 2 hours. An amount that a freshly qualified lawyer employed by the Attorney General's department will not be paid as a starting salary. I'm painting a picture to you. The things that matter, that will give us a nation that takes care of us and our future, we joke with. And this may be part of the reason you won't like to end at LLB. But truth is, not all of you will or desire to continue to Makola. We know the problems. Some of us have fought over that. It's a no-brainer to reduce legal training to be called to the bar to a physical space. The place is small, it can't accommodate many. Therefore, there are 3,000 graduates holding LLBs. We can only take 100 of them because of small space. In this world today, space is limited to an infrastructure, cement, brick and mortar. Come on. We can think a lot better than that. So I encourage you, regardless of the present situation, to endeavor to finish the law journey. Finish it well at Makola. You can practice your law in diverse fields after being called to the bar. But my call to you is that do make yourself available to the media, however expensive it is for the media to retain a lawyer. I am an example. I make myself available to the media. And remember where Kojo ended. The media needs you to survive. Media is your eyes and your ears. You need to protect the media. So, how does our media landscape look like? We have a saturated media environment, yet political authority is still influencing more licenses for politically exposed persons for obvious reasons. An unannounced part of the reasons for the aggressive processes leading to shutdown of radio stations and the supposed policy to reduce the coverage rate of your big and favorite radio stations operating up to 100 kilometers radius to 45 kilometers is very obvious. So, political authority can create more space and issue more licenses, and issue them to who? Political affiliates. Your big radio stations today, about a dozen of them, are operating about 100 kilometers radius. The license you get has a reach. 100 kilometers radius, after which you cannot tune and get them. That's what it's supposed to be. Now, there has been an aggressive process which led to the shutdown of radio stations, CV stations, and Kojo has mentioned some of that. In addition to that, because those shutdowns are not enough to give the politicians as many more licenses as they want, they are introducing what they call a reduction of coverage radius. So your biggest stations that operate up to about 100 kilometers are now being cut down to 45 kilometers so that they can't reach as much as they used to. There's only one reason behind it. If you are told any other thing, don't take it. It is so that more licenses can be created for the politicians and their affiliates. The NDC affiliates got a lot of licenses during their time. NPP affiliates are favored to acquire more this time. The evidence is there, unless you are not following what is going on. The last time I checked, in 2017, the country had 452 authorized radio broadcasting stations, though 98 were not in operation. We had 85 television stations that were authorized, and there were 34 that were not operating at the time. By 2018, the NMC had registered 378 publications, newspapers, journals, and magazines. In 2018, South Africa had 59 radio stations. The entire South Africa, check by Google what the population of South Africa is compared to Ghana. I'm coming to a point. They had 59 radio stations. Kenya had 118 radio stations. Big brother Nigeria, 170 million people. Lagos alone is bigger than Ghana. Lagos. That country had 361 stations, and 34 of them belong to universities and polytechnics. Here is the picture I'm painting to you. This small country, Ghana, is saturated with radio stations. And yet, we are doing everything to create more, just for the political purpose of it. We have a broadcasting bill that we have been trying to pass for a decade and more now. It was known as the 2014 Broadcasting Bill. This bill was the first direct, bold, though not comprehensive, effort at stopping this ugly and dangerous conduct by politicians. You have seen and heard politicians use their stations to do all sorts of things that endanger the peace and stability of this country. Unsurprisingly, they and their stations don't suffer any sanctions at all, while those that are not favored gets shut down for the slightest allegation of content error or broadcast. The project and crusade to pass this law, as I said, has been a decade and over now. Some campaigners for its passage believe the inaction is attributable to sections 54 and 56 of the proposed law, which emphatically prohibits grant of broadcast licenses to political parties and applicants found to be under the control of politicians. It provided in section 54, thus, I'm quoting, "The Commission shall not grant an authorization," authorization is a license to operate TV or radio, "shall not grant a license to a political party, B, a district assembly, C, a person who is controlled by a politically exposed person, or D, a religious body." I don't know how we expected politicians to pass a law that disadvantages them. This law has been rehashed. It has been rehashed. And Kojo Okonkuma, who has interest in new media establishments, is leading the charge. So, one thing will be obvious. The portion that sought to remove the danger that politicians and political affiliates pose by holding licenses will not survive. It certainly will be taken away from that law, because those who are leading the process, they need it. How can they make a law that stops them and their affiliates from acquiring licenses? And yet, we know the danger they pose. How they can plunge this whole democracy into chaos. I have some 5 minutes to get to 11:30. I'll try and end because I enjoy question times. A legal regime to regulate the media in Ghana dates as far back as 1966 under the military rule of the National Liberation Council. Note that military regime felt there was a need to have media operate. Military regime. We are talking about dictatorships. And in 1977, under the reign of the Supreme Military Council, by the promulgation of the 1992 Constitution, call it the Democratic Constitution, would hand a thirst-quenching cocktail of media freedoms in a Bill of Rights, starting from Chapter 5. You must know your Bill of Rights. Chapter 5, Fundamental Human Rights. In Article 21, it gives us a list of our freedoms of expression, association, among others, and then it includes in there the right of the people to know, knowing through the media, and then it specifically mentions the media. Then we have a dedicated chapter guaranteeing media independence and proscribing censorship. Prohibits censorship. That's what you find in chapter 12, which is Kojo Nyako mentioned that. The Constitution has my favorite Article 162. And 162.3 prohibits the mandatory requirements, prior requirements of a license to establish or operate a newspaper, journal, or other forms of media. Today, bodies including the National Media Commission, which unfortunately, is not living up to its mandate in the way it ought to, for good reasons. For the very first time, a politically sponsored person appointed by the president to that body has become the chair of that body. Yes, judges are nominated by the Judicial Council and so on, and mostly must have approval of the president to become judges. And after that, they don't have to please the president or the political party in power. More importantly, also because of Article 264 that provides and guarantees their tenure of office. Once you appoint me as a judge, you don't have power over me. You can't do anything to me. So I can't be doing things and look back. Yes, somebody who is appointed by the president, who goes there to become the chairman, can also be independent, but it's not the best. It's just in the same way as we have been advocating for an IGP who is not an appointee of the president, so that he doesn't become a poodle of the politicians. So the National Media Commission and the National Communications Authority. As for the National Communications Authority, everybody in there is appointed by the president. In fact, they are politicians. And often it is manifest that they cannot do anything that the political regime will not be excited about. They have been overseeing the operations of the media in Ghana, and I think we all can testify that the media's place in Ghana's democratic experiment is very evident, and therefore we need to protect it. I want to conclude by going a bit into the Constitution and showing you why Ghana has the best of laws to protect the media and media practice. And yet there are issues. But who are the users of the law? Who are the interpreters of the law? That is you. And that is where the media and the law meets. And that is where Kojo's call on you is very important. It's imperative to commence with Article 21 that I have mentioned to you before, which says, all persons shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression. Now, if the freedom of speech and expression should remain expressed in your bedroom, then it's no freedom, because it has no impact on governance. Meanwhile, your constitution commences by its own preamble, and the very first articles, that sovereign power of Ghana resides in the people. It actually says springs from the people. And it says the powers of government shall is mandatory. You know that too well by now. By the Interpretation Act, shall is mandatory. And it says, the powers of government shall be exercised for and on your behalf, because sovereign power of Ghana is in you. So if we have political leadership or whatever leadership, they are there as servants. The African attitude, the Ghanaian attitude, the leader doesn't see themselves as servants. That's the sad part of it. But your own law, your own supreme law, those of you who are Kelsenites, the groom norm, what gives birth to the law itself, says they are servants. They are supposed to serve, act for and on your behalf and in your best interest. How do you hold them accountable? You all can't get up and walk to the president and tell him what you want to say. No. Our parliamentarians have become people who represent themselves and not the people anymore. The only avenue to get the ears of the people you have employed to manage your business, to manage your company known as Ghana, is the media. That's the most potent tool. And they fear it. That's why they try sometimes to strangulate it. And Kojo spoke about gaslighting. I said, I wish you assimilated or processed and consumed what he said in the same way as I do. So I'm concluding. So it says all persons shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression. And I say the freedom of speech and expression is not one that I'm going to do in my house, in my closet, which I include the freedom of the press and other media. This provision, without a doubt, is most fundamental in a democracy, and freedom of expression is among the foremost of fundamental freedoms. A justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana, Professor Modibo Okra, in the Ejechum case, notes that this freedom, quotes, is vital to the exercise of freedom of conscience. So your God-given freedom of conscience, without the freedom of the media, of the press, you can't express it. That is God being limited. Come on, how is that possible? It's vital to the exercise of the freedom of conscience, to the development of personal identity, who you want to be, and to participation in political discourse and the political process, unquote. The framers of the 1992 Constitution, so I'm sticking to what I wrote, which I'm concluding with so that I don't express any further, I'll answer your questions. The framers of the 1992 Constitution had this importance of freedom of expression firmly in their sights when making the original proposals for the Constitution. What you see in Article 21, this is how it came about. In the report of the Committee of Experts, those who made the Constitution, on the proposals for a draft Constitution of Ghana, 1991, the Committee of Experts expressed itself in the following terms, quotes, the experience of modern states has demonstrated convincingly, please listen, the experience of modern states has demonstrated convincingly that in the absence of freedom of the press and thought, and an enlightened and vigilant public opinion, don't take lawyers out or people trained in the law out, a safe future for democracy and its success cannot be ensured anywhere. The mass media, the press, and other such platforms are the means to educate the people and make them the watchdogs of their liberties inherent in a democracy. So vital is the role of the mass media that freedom of expression, along with that of the press, had been called the first freedom. The first freedom. Indeed, any successful attack, could you give your attention here? Indeed, any successful attack on human rights by governments often starts with a suppression of the freedom of the press. Gaslighting. Once this freedom is denied, governments are free to abuse basic human rights without any publicity and frequently with impunity. Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu, one of my favorite jurists and teachers, did not miss this point when she observed that she wrote in a book, The Law and the Media in Ghana, 2000. She said, quote, "The need to uphold the freedom of speech and expression is considered fundamental to democratic governance and the operations of a democratic society. Such protection ensures the nurturing and growth of a market in ideas, which guarantees the free flow of information from the governors to the governed and vice versa." When I got to free flow, I had to be careful. The said Article 21 provision unambiguously guarantees the freedoms which are the bedrock of a democratic state. It is the basis of the existence of the media, by which Article 162, Clause 5, my favorite of all, Clause 5, 162, Clause 5, is fully and truly exercised, especially with growing population and ever-advancing technology. Before I read 162 Clause 5 to you, I'm reading to you Justice Holmes, what he said in the US. He captures the importance of this provision in our law when he noted in one case, Abraham versus United States, I quote, "When men have realized that time has upset many fighting faiths, they may come to believe that the very foundations of their own conduct, that the ultimate good desired is reached by free trade in ideas, that the best test of truth is the power of thought to get itself accepted in the competition of the markets, and that truth is the only ground upon which their wishes can be safely carried out," unquote. It is beyond debate that Article 162, Clause 5 places such enormous responsibility in the mass media and its actors, particularly journalists, in the discharge of their duties. But no statement of the constitutional regime establishing and anchoring the media in Ghana and media practice, however brief, should ever be complete without reference to the empowering role of the courts. The Human Rights Division of the High Court and the Supreme Court in particular have lived up to the Council of Europe's Commissioner for Human Rights observation of the need to constantly justify, reaffirm, and strengthen media rights if they are to be fully secured for the benefits of a country. So they quote, I quote, "Too many nations around the world know that, like democracy, freedom of the media and freedom of speech do not come naturally. You must work for it. They won't come naturally. And cannot be taken for granted. What we are enjoying today, don't take them for granted. You don't get to 12 o'clock and the whole media landscape is shut and you can't do anything. Now, any minute, you can get what you need and you can put what you need out there. So don't take it for granted. He says, Europe's Commission says, the media's rights, they must be constantly justified, constantly reaffirmed, and constantly strengthened. The learned author, S.Y. Bimpombuta, in chapter 7 of his book, he writes about the role of the Supreme Court of Ghana in the development of constitutional law. He correctly notes that Ghana's Supreme Court has jealously protected these rights, particularly as they relate to the mass media in the overall interest of promoting our democracy. In MPP versus GBC, which Nana Akufo-Addo was involved in, and the Radio Eye case, Dr. Reku Brodbe set up a radio station and trouble came. Of course, Nana Akufo-Addo was his lawyer. Among others, upheld the Constitution's primary objective of making information readily available to allow for value judgments from citizens, stressing that that objective was only possible if there was a free ventilation of views. This also was only possible using the media as a central vehicle without unlawful interference with its duty and role, which has earned it the accolade, quote, the fourth estate of the realm. The lawful limitations of the exercise of these freedoms notwithstanding, such actions as the repeal of the criminal libel regime in 2001, led by Nana Akufo-Addo, represent ample manifestations of the aspirations of the country in this regard. In fact, the Supreme Court, as recent as November 2016, struck out as unconstitutional the National Media Commission sponsored Content Standards Regulation as a piece of censorship legislation which was against the dictates of the Constitution, against censorship either through establishment of media outlets or editorial discretion. This is a field I am most comfortable in. And together with the law, I feel I am very comfortable in my skin when I have to discuss matters of law. So if you allow me, I can speak from now till it is night on this subject, and I want to end. So I want to thank you for the opportunity for this afternoon and pray that you come to the understanding that the media and the law are bedfellows. The media needs the law. The law establishes the media. Media practice is governed by law, and it will take lawyers to help, or people trained in the law, to help the media to properly take its place in protecting everyone and the public interest, including that of the lawyer and the person trained as a law, trained in the law. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I am learning a lot, and I hope you are too. And thank you. We promised to read our book cases and not read it. Are we going to read the book case? Yes. So, It's time for questions. I'm very sure you are reaching in your seat to ask questions. We are taking 5 questions. So please, you can just walk out the front and then we'll give you the mic. Or you want to do it?
Thank you. I'm Harriet. Please, first of all, I want to commend Thompson for the Youth Power program because you have been watching it a lot. I remember when we were discussing at 10:36, that's the youth part. That was the time we are in class. So almost all the classes listened to it. You made it. Please, my question is on the markets. I want to know whether Ghana would have the jurisdiction to air that case if the instance was like when the defamation was stated. It did not travel to the hearing of the defamation, that the person that the defamation was intended. But he had friends and family at that jurisdiction who heard it, took evidence of it, and posted it to the person. So, in that case, do Ghana still have jurisdiction as well? Thank you.
That's Harriet. Okay, so I will say briefly and say to the wisdom in the darkness. This is good tea that our work is solid. Together with, I think Justice Eric Cheba also has something to do with it. These guys are well read. Now, you would see, are you doing conflict of laws? Not yet, right? So you'll get to do conflict of laws. But even before you do conflict of law, you know about the principle of the lex situ. Lex situ. Lex situ locia, like in marriage, we say lex situ locia celebratianos. Where a marriage is celebrated, that is where the law of that place is used to apply to define whether it is valid, it is not valid, how to dissolve it and not dissolve it. Now, in defamation, what would be the lex situ? The place of the acts. Now, if you haven't heard of that, I'm just referring you to a few things you may be aware. Lex contractus, the law of the place where the contract is made. Now, what is his target? The audience. Who was he targeting? The people of Ghana. Not people who don't know Esankuma. The Ghanaians know Esankuma, and Esankuma practices his law here in Ghana. Yes, there may be a few people who know him elsewhere. But once this was his target, the court clearly, very correctly assumed jurisdiction and heard the case. And there is other authority to that effect in other jurisdictions, and the court relied on them. So the court was perfect on it. Who are the target? Where has the person built his reputation? Where does he carry on his business? The statements, the defamatory statements you make, where does it affect him the most? Ghana, right? This is where he has his reputation, and this is where it has affected him. So this will be the law that will be used for it. As for staying there and shouting that, oh, he's not in Ghana, so he doesn't bother. When the day he steps foot in Ghana, he will learn that it's not wise at all to be doing what he's doing. Okay, already there is a warrant for him. Immediately he touches the airport of Ghana, he'll be arrested. And once he steps here, he'll be dealt with. He said, oh, they didn't find his address. The address used was wrong. The fact that he has commented on it when it was filed shows that he was aware of it.
and he didn't come to court to defend himself, he's in trouble. Except he's a man of straw. And so the money that case is asking for, he may not have it. If he's a man of straw, doesn't have businesses that can be used to get the money, that's a different issue. Because in 2004, we changed our law and said, for not being able to pay a judgment debt, you don't go to prison. We will allow you to live until we find that you have gathered something. If you buy a bicycle, we'll come and see it and sell it. If you buy a TV set, we'll come and see this and sell it. Better than putting you in jail, right? So that's what we are doing now. So I think the law was properly applied in the circumstance.
Thank you very much. Please, I want to find out how you do it, how you combine media and practicing all together. Obviously, they are both demanding, and yet you excel in all of them. So I want to find out how you combine both and excel. Thank you.
Let me commit a crime by saying that I don't see myself very much as a journalist. And somebody say, bring the award. They gave you a car for being Journalist of the Year, bring the award. Okay, so that's the joke. But of course, I practiced journalism for, since when I left the University of Ghana, I did my, national service, with Love FM, and then I didn't really like it that much. I'll confess to you what happened. I was doing the national service. 4 months into the national service, I got the BBC job. And for the first time, I was having to file reports to the BBC and getting paid in pounds. So I would look at the pound sterling that was coming in and say, hey, it's Kumasi, 10 major pounds. So why should I leave the job? So to be frank with you, it was the money during service that enticed me. Because I could afford my rent, I could afford a small car I was driving around. That car is around this place now. Somebody has been using it. Somebody saw it and told me about it. It's a Fiat Tipo. Right. So then when I became a lawyer, once I was called to the bar, it became very obvious that I couldn't continue doing the job of a journalist. Truth is that I was passionate about journalism. And I still am very passionate. I take my journalism as a ministry. A ministry in the sense of being a Christian, if you understand what ministry is. So that's how I take my journalism. So I get angry, I get passionate when people are doing the wrong things, they don't want it to be said. They want to build a cathedral. There's nothing wrong with building a cathedral. But you start by telling lies about it, then I go and find out and I publish it and you hate me. It doesn't bother me that you hate me. You tell a lie, the government has nothing to do with it, then later you come to say, oh, government has something to do with it. Okay? The president said that, he made a pledge to God. Then Dr. Williams comes to tell us that, it is they, the charismatic people, who together impress upon the president to build a cathedral. Okay, so there's lie there. Amewu says, we are not going to demolish any judges' buildings. I got the evidence that you are destroying the judges' buildings. Some of the buildings were very recent. Even the judicial service had not finished paying the contractors. In fact, some were not completed. You are destroying all those buildings. You are destroying institutions that were around the place. And I said, this is the only place you can put a cathedral. Why don't you put it at another place instead of destroying all this? And the money is for Ghanaians, our tax money that has been used to build the passport office, all the institutions that were there, and the bungalows for the Court of Appeal judges. I say this, and the politicians, they gaslight and suggest to you that, no. Something doesn't like God. He doesn't want cathedral. What is that? That's not what I'm saying. Okay? and how they treated the judges. Initially, they didn't even write letters to them to tell them about the relocation. They just used word of mouth until one judge got angry and compelled them to write a letter. And I've got a copy of the letter. So I blew the whistle on it. Okay? And the relocation, they were being taken to another place which was being rented in dollars every month. They are being paid. And then that was just temporary place. Then there will be a permanent place where we are now going to build new, bungalows for them. I'm like, why all this waste, chain of waste of our money? You don't do that. The places you are going to build new ones, why don't you extend that place and build a cathedral there? Okay? So you catch them, they lie. You catch them, they lie. And you say, don't build a cathedral on the foundation of lies. And then the party, foot soldiers come at you. Say, oh, you hate us. So what? I hate you, I like Ghana. So that passion gets me to do the work. And as for my work as a lawyer, it's what I clearly live by. I can assure you that that's what I live by, so I don't joke with it. So I quit as a media news editor at Joy FM. Immediately I was called to the bar. I quit. And then I was asked to come and host Newsfile. So I do Newsfile on Saturdays. The whole of the week, my mind is on doing my galamsey in the courts. So it comes easy. There's a lot of reading, I can assure you that. Thank you.
Pray. I'm Latif Lawrence, first year 200 postgrad student. Mr. Sampson and Mr. Youngson, you admitted how the media is under siege under various successive governments. Quite unfortunately, you admit to that politically exposed people who actually infiltrate the media space, making it very difficult for us to have the fourth estate, a truly independent estate. The law that seeks to proscribe these people from owning these media stations seems not to be going anywhere, because they are not going to be any time in the near future pass this law. Going into the future, what becomes the fate of the fourth estate that we truly want it to be independent? Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't get your name. What's your name?
I'm Latif Lawrence.
Thank you so much, Latif. This is an important question, perhaps the most important question for us to ponder on a day like this. What's our future if indeed the system is working against our independence? The idea of the media is that we should exist to protect the people from those who would abuse the system against them. So, to protect public good from private interest, a point that I made several times when I was speaking. That's the idea of the media. But the media won't work. Somebody is protecting them too. Your eyes and ears won't work unless you protect them from all those who would seek to attack them, so that you can doubt the evidence of your eyes and ears. You must also protect your eyes and ears from those people. We've all been brought up to think that we can only express our power as a people once every 4 years. Election day, then we all come out and we show them who is boss. Once every 4 years, that is not the case at all. There are millions of ways in which you can make your leaders do what you want. The first one is to understand that it is in their interest to give you the best version of the truth, or in some cases, to lie to you. It is in their interest. Right? They didn't put out an advert to tell us that the president is about to make a trip and it's going to cost us $15,000 what, a day, an hour, an hour. They didn't put out an advert in the newspapers to tell us that. But now that they are being asked to explain it, you can see the gymnastics. Oh, I'll be there soon. And he comes and says, oh, actually, I'm not supposed to be the one here. Go and ask the other minister. So when you were telling us you'll be there soon, didn't you know you are not the one? This is the nature of those who wield power. That they will always use it, they will always want to test the limits and want to use that power to their benefit as much as they can, unless the media can stop them. Now, if the media tries to stop them and they tell you that your media is lying to you, they are lying. They are the ones who caused the problem. They weren't just filming it, they caused it. You have to protect the media from these attacks. And when I say you, I don't only mean you as law students. Of course, you have an even more important role to play. But you as Ghanaians, you have representatives, people who say that they are running things on your behalf. You have MPs. You have assembly members. They say they are working on your behalf. So if something is happening that you don't like, have any of you ever written an email to your MP? Anyone? You have. You are wonderful. Good. That's how you exert your power in between the 4-year election. By telling your leaders what you want them to do and what you don't want them to do. Because as for politicians, that is the one thing they will respond to, public pressure. Remember there was a time when we were told that they were going to set up some car towing service. We were going to give the contract to one company to tow all the cars on our roads. It wasn't an election year. But you people said, we don't like that. We don't want that. Right or wrong, that's what he said. What did they do? They stopped it. That's the power you have. So if you feel, and your question about the law that will never be passed, if you feel that it should be passed, my brother, you know what to do. And you see, we will play our part. When you play yours, we will play ours. And it works beautifully together. So a bunch of people write to their MPs and say, look, we want this law. We think it is in our interest. We want you to pass it. What will we do? We'll tell the world. We'll have conversations about it. We'll bring out the ins and outs. We'll give you the platform to speak so that your voice has even more resonance. So that your voice is amplified even more. So that your MP has even less of a choice when it comes to doing what you told him to do. When we work together, nobody can beat us. So the simple answer to your question is, that's the future. That's how we safeguard it, by joining hands. The two fourth estates, right? Thank you.
Let me add this in a second. Most of you know me as having taken a front role in the passage of the RTI law. The RTI took 2 decades. In fact, over 20 years, the RTI was fought for. Akutampa, the Shishi, we are friends, that's how we call it. Shishi, they did everything, fell on deaf ears. And then we, the latter saints, came and took over. Talk, because we needed it, we forced it. Yes, they passed it without setting provisions that we wanted. That's where the broadcasting game will also end. But you must push it. You may get it in the end, the certain portion that you want may not be there. But it depends on the advocacy, like the producer said. If we advocate well, strongly, we will get what we want, because we have employed them into our companies. Our companies, They don't dictate what they must do. It is what we, the owners of the company, want that must be done.
Good afternoon. My name is Erasmus Corte. My question, I don't know, it may go to Samson. You made mention of the fact that we should make ourselves available to the media. And by virtue of your position, my understanding is that, we should try and assess the media by way of retainership and all that. In a situation or in an environment where the media is quick to be the first to report a news, how would a lawyer's job be so effectively executed in ensuring that whatever goes out there, it's the right information and it does not frown on any law? Thank you.
That's a very important thing you talk about. And look, let's not play the ostrich about it. The media, really, particularly in this time, is competing against speed. Because social media will go ahead of you, and then traditional media, but I believe that no responsible media organization puts out information that it has not filtered, unless they are covering it live. We are sitting here, there's some camera on me. Supposing it's live, they may not be able to filter it. Even though I could get to a point where I'll make certain statements and they have a responsibility to detect that this is not good, so they will cut it off. For the public good, it's not. Other than that, no responsible media puts out information it has not filtered. You see, there are loads of documentaries that you watch on your joint channel. They go through a lot of work. That's part of what I have dedicated my time to assess. Can you count how many times Manasseh Azori has been sued? Can you count which of those suits was not successful? Zero suits have been successful because the process goes through the guidance of a lawyer. It goes through the guidance of a lawyer. Could you sit on the morning show? I can't do the morning show. You know why? He must prepare for the show the next day, every day. Newsfile, I have the whole week to prepare. In fact, I'll listen to him, I'll hear some stuff, go and look for some more, call the people who are involved, get further information. He will get up in the morning. The thing is happening now, he has to do it. I can't do that shit. But guess what? By the time he's opening the mic, once there are potential legal issues, ask him how many lawyers you have spoken to before he starts. Sometimes he's speaking, and you don't have to be a lawyer to tell that he has been guided. That's what responsible media does. So I understand your challenge, and media owners must also take that advice, that being the first is not what is important, but being correct and accurate is the most important.
Good morning. Please, my name is Makapui. You handle law today. My question is to both speakers. So, in our Ghanaian society, there are certain group of people we do not permit or we are not used to. And the media keeps on, let's say, the masses keep on saying that the media keeps on giving them this platform to advocate, like make everything known to the whole society, which people do not agree to. Do you believe that the media is then abusing the freedom that the people have given to them? That's my question.
Is this Makapui, right? Is this about the LGBTQ plus debate? Ah, wow, okay. And Samson let them put their mic in my hand first. All right. That's an interesting question. So what we're saying is that we currently have a society that says we don't like this thing. We don't like it. But somehow they keep hearing about this thing because the media gives platforms for it to be discussed, right? Okay. Well, I think I can speak for the media house I work for, Joy FM, that we allow every voice to be heard as long as we believe that it is a conversation that our audience wants to have. Right? We can't force our audience to talk about something they don't want to talk about. We don't have that power. We will give every side of the story the platform as long as we believe it is a conversation our audience wants to have. Now, let me challenge you a little bit on this LGBTQ plus issue. Can anybody point to somebody who belongs to an LGBTQ plus advocacy group who has maybe given a speech somewhere calling on the people of Ghana to grant rights to LGBTQ plus people? Yes? Any platform? Somebody who has said, please give them rights. For example, give them rights to marry. Yes? Okay. You are closest. Tell me, who was that?
She's called Ama Governor. She's on YouTube and she's on Instagram too. She's a very great activist for it. So on YouTube, she made a whole video crying out to the people of Ghana and those outside to come to their aid and help them to make it a right. Yeah, so that they can marry and they can have all the freedoms that we all have. Yeah.
So which platform was this?
YouTube.
So her own platform. She didn't come to a public place, media house like Joy. She said it on her own platform, right?
She has a lot of followers. And you can say that the people who view it can be more than if they are to show it on TV3, online, the people who watch. Yeah.
Okay, but I don't work for YouTube. I didn't give her followers. I'm sure that people who agree with the things she says are the ones who follow her. And a few people who disagree also follow her. So clearly it's a conversation they want to have. That's why when she says it, they all go there and comment, either agree or disagree. And on Joy, I haven't hosted any person who has been advocating for marriage of LGBTQ plus people on my show. It's never happened. But if somebody ever came and said that this is what I think, and it was part of the conversation that the nation is having, it would be wrong to deny him that platform. You can't expect to only hear the things you agree with when you switch on your TV or your radio. That will never be the society in which you live, as long as we remain a democracy. You will always hear people who you don't agree with. It doesn't matter the topic, politics, the economy. You will hear people you don't agree with. I don't want to even go into the merits of why we don't want to hear these people, or why we think there is something so wrong with hearing someone speaking for the rights of a minority. I don't want to go into that. All I want to remind you of is that once upon a time, not so long ago, if you were to ask the people of the United States whether black men should be allowed to vote, 99% of them would have told you no. That's how they felt. That's what they believed in. If you ask them, should black people be allowed to eat in the same room as white people? 99% of them would have told you no. That's what they believed in. I think we sometimes think that the majority is always right, because we belong to the majority. But allow for that day in the future when you may no longer be in the majority. Allow for it. Allow for other views that are not the same as yours. Allow for it. That's democracy. Whatever they think, let them say it. You will also get the opportunity to say yours. And in the end, everybody can decide for themselves. That's the job of the media, not to decide for you, but to ensure that every view is heard. But of course, it comes with a responsibility. So if somebody, for example, wants to come and preach that all albinos should be killed, we won't give them that platform to come and preach hate. There are rules. There are rules to what we do, and we will always abide by those rules. It doesn't break a rule to allow a minority to speak. It doesn't break a rule, because we can never force you to agree with what the person says. That will always be your independent decision. I hope I've addressed that.
So, McCarthy, is that again? You say, because you are hearing the opposite side, therefore the media is abusing their rights, because the people don't want to hear about it. Which people? Because there are gays in the community. You may say, yes, our laws are against those acts, so it's criminal, don't even promote it. Well, I won't promote it, but I will listen to the other side. Because, in fact, Ghana law does not criminalize homosexuality. People shout on the top of the roof. They follow populist talk. As lawyers coming up, you pay attention to the detail. Section 104 of Act 29. What does it say? It prohibits unnatural carnal knowledge. What is unnatural carnal knowledge? The definition is found in common law. Common law says unnatural carnal knowledge is penal penetration of anything other than the vagina. Tell me if a lady and a lady can penetrate each other. The law prohibits penal penetration of anything other than a vagina. So the law catches only a man who has a penis and uses it to enter anything than a vagina. Does it catch lesbians? There you are. So, as law students, you take your time, go to the detail. You don't hear anybody just shout, take it. And in this community, what is going on? Francis Xavier Sosu, one of the MPs, says, oh, the law you are trying to bring, I think aspects of it need some tweaking. What is happening to him? All of a sudden, he's gay, or he's promoting homosexuality. Come on, he can't discuss the content of the bill. He must be a gay or must support gays before he can say, this law, let's change it this way, let's do it this way. You see how the populist thinking does? And his political opponents watch 2024 will come. Go to Medina and listen to the conversation that will go on. They will say, this MP who was promoting gay, he's gay himself. Don't vote for him. But did he promote gay? Absolutely not. He said, the law, we need to tweak certain aspects. For example, if you classify something as a misdemeanor, what does Act 30 say is the punishment for misdemeanor? 3 years maximum. If you classify something as misdemeanor, and then you say it must start with 5 years or 15 years, that is contradiction in your body of laws. He's pointing it out to you. He says, something. That's the way we are doing. Anybody who tries to raise an opinion which is in the alternative, we are quick to say, this is who he is. Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh is speaking. We are not listening. We are just saying, oh, he cried, why? Maybe he's being paid by the gay community. Why are you behaving like that? Why are you behaving like that? Our own communities. Let's go and find out whether the men that we have called women before, yes, what they have been doing. And let's ask the women that the law has not criminalized lesbianism. Ask them what they have been doing. What they have been doing in our secondary schools. What stories don't we know? Especially in the girls' schools. What don't we know? Then we play the ostrich, hypocritical, and say all sorts of stuff. Just in the making of the law. It's not right. So I agree with you. See, me, I don't like that thing one bit. Gay, what is that? I don't get it. I just don't get it. That I should go and look for my fellow man. Hey, for what? For what? But see, this has been my attitude. I got very early association with some whites, some Americans and Canadians. And it got me to say, what they do in their closet, how does it concern me? Guess what? English law has said from beginning that law is not interested in morality, but the external. And then we had a report in England that we all relied on, which says the law has no business with two consenting adults, what they do in their private. So I tuned into that kind of attitude and said, two women, two guys, what they do in their private, how does it concern me? But later, I came to change that view and said, it concerns me. Me, I have 3 boys. I have 3 boys. You know why it concerns me? If I'm not careful, they will indoctrinate my boys. If I'm not careful, they don't want to give birth, but they will want to adopt. So procreation will cease. That is an extremist point of view, because they can never overcome procreation. So now, I have my bias. If I want to deal with them, my bias is there. I may be interviewing them, but at the back of my mind, I'm like, Charlie, what's going on? But I feel as a duty that the minority is there. They also deserve a voice. Put the voices together and let the one who will win, win. That's it.
So thank you. I think that when you sit on sets or when you are dealing with an issue like that, it is not about what you like or what you believe in. You might not believe in what the issue you are interviewing the person about, but that doesn't mean that we should cease the conversation, because there are obviously people that are interested in that particular conversation. We cannot say that we should curtail their freedom. We need to talk about it. So what does it mean to talk about it? Because obviously there are people that also believe in that. Let's educate, let's open up, and then let's have a decent and frank conversation about it. I mean, having a conversation about it, I don't think that it is injurious to anybody. And sometimes the tagging. So when someone is at the far front of this, okay, well, let me interview these people, or I have a voice of dissent in the populous thing people are doing, and then the person is tagged, oh, okay, we'll go here, or and that is the thing they are doing to a lot of the CSOs, that, oh, okay, they've gone to collect money from these whites and then they will propagate something. I think we should really open up and then have some frank conversation about some of these things. You might not be a believer in it, but the fact that you're a journalist, you cannot say that, okay, I am only going to treat stories I believe in or will kneel to my benefit alone, but would not allow the other people to also have a take about it. I mean, that is the real culture of silence. In fact, when you do that, you are silencing other people. You are preventing them from participating in some kind of conversation. So I think that we should be very careful. It is not only on this, but sometimes you take a stance and then you talk about something. All of a sudden, then you are this. So the media persons here, they've been tagged. Okay, at one point he's an NDC person, at another point he's an MPP, and all of that. And what is becoming increasingly worrying is that it is coming from the educated people, people that are in the universities, people you meet that you expect them to know better. The person belongs to a political party, but he sees clearly that what the political party he or she belongs to is doing is not good. Then there is a wahala. So he doesn't want you to even touch that one. But the same person would want to touch the other person who is also doing equally the same thing. And so we are turning between these two levels. And it is because of us. They are manipulating us. And they start right from the universities. We form the association. But our inability to tell them the truth, tell them to the face that this is what you are doing. And it is not good. Currently, there is this past question, Wahala, printed by the Ghana Education Service. He said that you had nearly 600,000 you printed last year. It cost us almost 35 million Ghana cedis to the senior high schools. Then this year, you are seeking to print the same number. Meanwhile, these past questions were supposed to be returned to the senior high schools. So are we graduating almost 1 million students this year? They are there. I mean, and this is not the first time past questions have been printed or have been made available in the senior high school. So there was this time that I made a post about it. I got some two calls. Oh, what's your view? What's your interest in this one? I mean, stay off their back and then let's allow them to do that. The person came to me, not even on social media. He saw the post on social media and then came to me and said that, no, what you are doing is wrong. And I said that you are causing a lot because you see, you travel. I have been in the central region for a very long time. You travel and then you see that people are sitting under trees. They are learning. There are no chairs and tables and all of that. And then you see this kind of wastage. But when you take a position that, no, this one, it is in the national interest, it is in the public interest, you find the same people, sometimes educated people, academics, and then they will come at you. So let's be careful. Let's open up. Some of these things, we need to be educated. Sometimes you have a closed circuit, but we need to have a more open circuit to deal with these issues.
So sorry, I just want to add a little something. Makapu, you have really asked a big question. So before our next question, if you don't mind, I just wanted to say this. please, let me tell you something about the society that you are living in. The one that you think you know so well. Let me tell you something about it. In 2011, I went to a funeral in Wales, in Swansea, Wales. It was a family friend. We spent some time growing up there. So a family friend had died, an 80-year-old man. His son, who was about 50 years old, is gay. He came to the funeral with his husband. So he came to our table and introduced his husband to us. I was there with my mother and my sisters. And he told his husband that we are from Ghana. His husband said, oh, really? I lived in Ghana for 6 years. I said, okay, interesting. Then he asked me, are Ghanaians still very funny about gay people? And I said, well, we don't recognize it as part of our culture. So, yeah, in fact, we even criminalize the sexual act between gay men. And he said, you know, that thing always amused me. Because he was in Ghana as the country manager of British Caledonian Airways. Does anybody know British Caledonian? It used to operate just like British Airways. He was their country manager for 6 years. And he said to me that he has worked in over 18 countries throughout his career. There is no other country where he met more gay men than Ghana. Right? I was shocked. I was like, Ghana? He said, oh, yes. And they are all married. That's what he told me. They all have wives. Some have children. All right? Because if he ever dares to say, I'm gay, that's the end of him. So he must hide. So you go and find somebody's daughter, marry her, and give her the most miserable marriage of her life. Because he cannot afford to openly say, as for me, I'm gay, and live his life. He can never do that. That's the society we live in. Now, like Samson, I don't understand it either. I don't understand how a man can be attracted to another man. I don't get it. But the fact that I don't get, in fact, another thing I don't get, I don't understand how a man can be attracted to a young man can be attracted to a 90-year-old woman with wrinkles and a body odor. I don't understand that either. But if a young man decides to go and sleep with a 90-year-old woman, do I have the right to make him a criminal?
I want this question to be answered first of all of you. I want your view on Khalid Buddha's arrest in view of or in light of national security as espoused Articles 164 and 21.4. Usually, we know that even though the freedoms are there and the rights are there, when national security is at risk, certain limitations are allowed by law. And so, in view of this, I want your view on whether the police was right, whether the arrest was in place or was lawful. Because I can see that the media houses, journalists are complaining the fact that, I understand the fact that he was brutalized or he was manhandled, which is not right. But then the arrest itself, I want your view on it. Also, I also want to know, and you see, media is run by human beings who may have prejudice and have private interest as well. And so, therefore, there may be a case of media bias. And so I just want to broaden this discourse a bit and then ask how we can create a balance in this conversation. And what is the role of law in preserving the sanctity of the media so that it's not only the government trying to strangle the media, and then where you have a case of media houses or journalists using the prejudice or leveraging on their space in the media to propagate certain stories. How can we create a balance in all of this to ensure that there is real sanctity in the media? Probably we can tackle it from the legal perspective. So thank you very much.
I'd like to see if I can bring in a few seconds. Please, what's the name again? Okay, please pay attention here. Article 164, right? Let's all read it. The provisions of Articles 162 and 163 of this Constitution are subject to laws that are reasonably required in the interest of national security, public order, public morality, and for the purpose of protecting the reputations, rights, and freedoms of other persons. Please, when you are reading the law, read it slowly. It says, subject to laws. Subject to laws that are reasonably required in the interest of national security, public order, public morality. You read the same thing in Article 18.2, right? You read the same thing in Article 21. Subject to laws. Please underline that. When Caleb was attacked, I am one of those who took the national security to the cleanest. And I'll do it any day. The question we ask, let me ask again. Which law, number one, proscribes photo taking in that place? The Ministry of National Security. Which law? Has anybody shown you any law? No. But we are talking, arguing. You say, can you say you can go to US Embassy and take? Have you checked the US laws? Which portion says that place is prohibited, you can't take a picture? Why are you comparing yourself to them? They have done laws. Subject to laws, not subject to somebody's behavior. I say, oh, so are you saying there must be a law? We are a lawful society. We are governed by law. What does your constitution say in Article 19? 19, is it 11 or 12? It says, nothing is a crime unless it has been provided in the law and the sanction has been prescribed. So if you haven't prescribed the thing by law, don't hold the gentleman and say you have committed a crime. Which crime? Do you know why he's not being prosecuted? Because there's no law against what he did. Now ask yourself again, even if there is law, what does the same Constitution say in Article 1, Article 18.2? I beg you, I don't want to say, so you say me, I'm reading from my head. Article 18.2 says that, you see, there are exceptions to everything. You see, you are getting me to be passionate about this. Yes, media people, we get it wrong sometimes, and when we get it wrong, we must be ready to apologize for them, and we do that every day. Article 18.2 says, no person shall be subjected to interference with the privacy of his home, property, correspondence, or communication except in accordance with law, and as may be necessary in a free and democratic society for public safety, public economic well-being of the country, protection of health and morals, and for the prevention of disorder or crime, or protection of the rights and freedoms of others. If what Caleb was filming is in the public interest, if what Caleb was filming was for the purposes of preventing crime, was for the purposes of the economic well-being of Ghana, how dare you say that he was wrong? Because the law says all the privacy protections, this is the exception. Oh, it is a prohibited place, so you are stealing. And the journalists are seen. Because it's prohibited, you can't take evidence of your stealing. That's crap. And who says if you catch a thief, you beat them? Which law gives you that power? That if you catch somebody breaking the law, you also break the law by beating them. Which law is that? Which law is that? Especially when the person who is catching, the person who allegedly has done the wrong, is an officer of the law. What does Article 14 say? It says whether you are detaining, you are restraining, or you are restricting the person, you must tell them first in a language in which they understand. Of what? Of the reason why you are doing what you are doing. Meaning, you should tell them what crime they have committed. Then beyond that, tell them of their right to a lawyer of their choice. Is that what the guy was taking through? He was beaten. Is that what the Constitution says? So don't tell me any story that because some government person is saying it, I should believe it because I am a dummy. No. I have read the law and I won't allow such nonsense to go on in this country. Yes, sometimes we put our lives on the line. People are afraid for us. But you see, the people who brought this country where it is took their toil and blood. We have our life once, we die once, so what? The society will only be better if we are all vigilant and don't allow people who wear uniform, we pay to protect our interests, to tend to use the guns we give them against us. That's wrong. Till today, the ministry has not shown you the law that prescribed picture taking at that place. What was the guy doing? Your money used as small loans for people was used to buy vehicles. And the vehicles had been sitting there for over a year or two, and they were rotting away. So he had pictures earlier, and he saw the bush that was overgrowing and consuming the vehicles there. So something happens, he says, let me go and check again. Your money, your tax money, who buys vehicles and put them in the sun and allow rain to beat them and allow weeds to overgrow the vehicles and doesn't use them for any profit? You can't tell me that the media is wrong in going to the defense of Caleb. And who says if Caleb did the wrong, he should be beaten? And who says you needed that ammunition to go to City FM? Look at how they went there. As if you're going to arrest some terrorists. Small fly. One plainclothes officer can follow and go and say, you took the video, delete them, or we want them back. That's all. Took vehicles, rushed into the planes like some, coup d'etat is coming. What is that? What is that? If we don't fight these, they will continue. Not in just this regime, any regime. Why? Didn't we criticize Baba Kamara? Somebody stood at one office and took pictures of vehicles within the BNI place, or where was it? Then they were chasing after the person to deal with the person. We took them to what the law is. So please, let's make the difference and not allow anybody to use national security, something to fool us and do the wrong thing. It says, subject to laws. So point us to the law, which says you don't do this, you don't do this, and we'll respect it. And don't beat us first. It's wrong. You don't do that. That is a criminal act. Assault and battery, even harm and threat of harm, are all punishable under our laws. That is why the military itself did its investigations and found out that the people had misconducted themselves. And did what? Asked the soldier man to go back to his place. The policeman, Azuku, get out. Everybody was asked to move because they found that these people had done wrong. So the media was right in the position it took. And we felt that even the way those people who misbehaved were handled was not the best. Some of us had the privilege. I spoke about it on my show. There were lawyers who were there. They had gone there for their own business. And they saw killer being beaten and being, kicked about the place. Some of them confronted the officers and asked them, why you want to kill the boy? What is that? Why can't you get, you can get anything you want from him. But why kick him? What is that? So, me, I speak about these issues passionately because I know the law is on our side. So I speak about it. But I am never at 1 minute suggesting that the media is without faults and that people don't have interest. People pursue all sorts of agenda. People get paid to do all sorts of things in the media. And that is wrong. That's why, like you say, how can you check the media? That's why the courts are there. The laws of defamation are there. Me, I represent multimedia and other, media entities. They get sued all the time for defamation. And I go to court to defend them. That's what you do in a civilized society. If they do wrong, you sue them. And then you get damages for it. And then you get retractions and apologies for it. Same way it has to go. Thank you, but you touched on an issue that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, honestly, I think Samson has said it all. The only thing I perhaps would like to add is that, these things are opportunities for us to question ourselves. The question that we never ask ourselves, these are the opportunities we should take to ask those questions. For example, why do I think this way? Why is it that when a nurse takes hidden cameras into an orphanage to expose abuse of children, I think he's a hero? But if Caleb Kuda takes a camera into a national security car park to expose the waste of our money, I think he's a criminal. Why do I think this way? Why do I think that Caleb should be beaten but Anna should be praised? Why is that my opinion? Why? These are opportunities for us to ask these important questions. There's another important question. Everybody does things for a reason. Everybody. Unless you have a mental illness. If you are sane, then there's a reason for everything you do. That's why they call you reasonable. So let's ask ourselves, what was the reason? These armed men saw Caleb Kuda in their car park taking pictures. He said, hey, you are doing the wrong thing, come here, let's beat you. So they beat him for taking pictures in their car park. Then they said, let's storm his workplace, a media house, and go and grab the person he sent the videos to. the videos he took in their car park. Does national security not know what is in their car park? Are they confused about what is in their own car park? Or do they know? They know, don't they? Oh yes, I'm sure national security is very likely to be here. It's actually within the realms of possibility. So if you'd like to come and take the mic, we'd like to know. So, you knew what was in your car park. You knew what he has filmed. You know that he hasn't filmed Ghana's secret plans to invade Togo. You know he hasn't filmed the flight, what's it called, plan of the president. You know he hasn't filmed the password to the First Lady's bunker. You know he has filmed vehicles. You know what is in your car park. So when you make a decision to storm that media house, to go and grab the person, and you've seen who he sent it to, by the way. That's why you knew where she was. You knew who he had sent it to. So when he decided to send 7 or 8 armed men to get there, get out of the car, rush into the building, chase her into the kitchen and grab her, because she has received videos of cars owned by the state. Ask yourself one question. Why? What was it? They didn't go there with guns to protect the images of cars. If we are all reasonable, we can agree on that. They didn't go to protect the image of cars. So what did they go there to do? Why? Ask yourself when things like this happen. As you are forming the opinion in your head, ask yourself, why am I thinking this way? Because in the end, somebody cannot come and improve you. You have to do it yourself. You have to take every opportunity to improve the way you see the world. That's what's required of us in the media. In order for us to serve you better, we have to analyze the things we do and ask these questions. Why? I want to invite you to ask the same, because you are going into a profession where it is the details that matter. A profession where in some cases the only thing that will determine the fate of your client is mens rea, guilty mind. Why? Let's start asking ourselves that one question. Thank you.
Law Students Union, Faculty of Law, University of Cape Coast, citation in appreciation of Richard Kodunyapo, Media and the Law Colloquium, Law Week Celebration 2021. Home is where all hopes and dreams begin. Your service to UCC Law Students Union as the second president of the union cannot be underestimated. As of today, you serve as the central regional correspondent for Joy News. To have a great mind like yours speak on such a delicate topic is truly appreciated. The Law Students Union deems it a great honor to have you grace our occasion. We are particularly grateful for honoring our invitation and speaking at the Media and the Law Colloquium, organized by the Law Students Union as part of its 2021-2022 Law Week celebration. Respectfully receive this citation of appreciation. Signed, Law Students Union, UCC.
Please let's clap as a yes. Thank you so much for gracing our event. Our Vice President is going to read for Kojo Jansen. Mr. Kojo Jansen.
Citation in appreciation of Kojo Jansen, Media and the Law Week Celebration 2021. Without a doubt, you possess the power to transform the mornings we wake up to each day. No wonder you wonderfully host the Super Morning Show on Joy FM. To have you, a global asset, speak at your alma mater on an issue you are an expert at guarantee the success of our program. The Law Students Union deems it a great honor to have you grace our occasion. We are particularly grateful for honoring our invitation and speaking at the Media and the Law Colloquium, organized by the Law Students Union as part of its 2021-2022 Law Week celebration. Respectfully, receive this citation of appreciation, signed the Law Students Union, UCC.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Father Sosai will read a citation for Samson Ladi, Ayenini Esquire. Please let's clap.
Citation in appreciation of Samson Ladi, Ayenini Esquire. Having a rare mind like yours gracing our program presents us with an honor and honor. Your experience in the field of journalism and the legal space makes you an asset worth seeking. This experience won you the 25th GJA Journalist of the Year Award and many other enviable medals. We are particularly grateful for honoring our invitation and speaking at the Media and Law Colloquium organized by the Law Students Union as part of its 2021-2022 Law Week celebration. Respectfully, receive our token of gratitude and appreciation. Signed, Law Students Union, UCC.
Thank you so much. Oh, please, let's clap. Let's clap. Let's clap. Let's clap. Let's clap. We are so grateful for coming. I mean, we are not in normal times, but then we were able to make it. So please let's give it up for them.